Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Welcome, everybody, to another beautiful opportunity to share a story that, of course, as you all know that listen to the show, I like to know very little, so I'm in my own element of surprise. And I just want to pause and thank all the listeners around the world, especially in this time right now that we are all encountering, a time of a lot of uncertainty, a time of fear for many people, and now more than ever, the greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to be okay no matter what you're feeling, and to please fill your mind, your spirit, and your heart and your environment with uplifting thoughts, uplifting food for the soul, as to why this show, this nudge from above a few years ago, has turned to being extraordinary during this time. And I have no idea the story that we're about to hear, but I'm trusting that it's going to be another story of hope that's going to lighten your day and have you fall back in love with the gifts you have and the passion and the power to go after them. And this might be the pause you needed to rekindle your passion. So on that note, here we go. Welcome, Julie Foucht. Hi, Julie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I am super excited to hear what I'm going to say.
Oh, I love that you just said that. Well, darling, we're just going to close our eyes and let it go. How's that?
Perfect.
Well, why don't we start with just a little nugget so we get a current. I kind of like to know, what does Julie's world look like today outside of the element that we're all living in homebound? But like, what are you doing right now that's your passion? And then we'll get to the backstory of how this evolved.
Okay, cool. So the work that I do is I work with women entrepreneurs, and I particularly focus on women who are coaches, healers, mystics, witches, who work in that world of I walk both the spiritual and the physical plane. And how do I support myself? How do I abundantly support myself doing that? And the work that I do, I do a lot of work with, okay, here's how you build a program, but that's not my love. My love is really about how do you be the woman who can have the business you want? And we can translate that in how do I be the woman who is able to have the relationship I want? How do I be the woman who has the health that I want? And how do I hold that I am this before this shows up in the physical? Because it's in that holding it that allows it to show up. So my work is about, my work is about how do you be that so that what you dream has space to show up for you.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And this isn't how you've spent your entire career, is it? There is right? And I love that I've got the goosies as I'm listening to you, because I'm very spiritual. And I think that, especially right now in this state that we're all in, it's a great time to tap in even deeper into your spiritual core, because it might be what we have, that it's all we have. I would love to know from you, take us back. Let's go on a journey. I love the story behind the story, Julie, and take us back to maybe even your younger years, maybe when you were a young girl, or maybe it was elementary, middle, high school, early adulthood. But was there a pivotal moment in your life that had a impact on who you are? Maybe it was an adverse situation. I have no idea. I'm just asking because I'm always curious, right?
Yeah. And do you know how old I am? I mean, there could be several stops that we make.
Yes. So take us back to one of the earlier, more pivotal moments for you.
So I think one of the big things that I didn't know at the time, but when I was 7, we moved into a haunted house.
What?
And it's crazy. It's crazy. And during that time period, the ghosts, I mean, and I'll tell you the whole story, but what happened for me is I shut down all my ability to see the spirit realm, to walk in the spirit realm, because I was so afraid of the ghost that was in the house. I didn't talk about this. And as several years later, as adults, God, we were probably in our 30s, when my brothers and I were sitting around talking, and I said to them, hey, remember that house? Do you think it's haunted? And my younger brother said, absolutely. I remember two little girls dancing in the basement. And my other brother, who is like total skeptic, redneck, proud of being redneck, like, yep. That was about what he would say. Yep, it was haunted. And my little brother goes, I think I can find the house. And we actually went back to the house. So we all got in a truck and we drove down there and we looked around. We found the house, knocked on the door, and this woman answered, and I swear the door creaked open. And she goes, yes. And I said, I lived here as a child. And she said, and you want to visit the house? And I'm like, no, I don't know. But is it haunted? And she said, tell me what you know. And I'm like all about verifying. I'm like, tell me what you know. And so she told me the story about the three ghosts, the one upstairs that wasn't friendly to children, the two in the basement, like the whole story that we had just told each other that we had never talked about.
Julie, I'm covered in goosies right now.
Oh,
I'm having I'm freaking out because I totally believe this stuff. And I can't believe I'm actually talking to you and you grew up and living in a house. This is like Paranormal Activity, the shows that they do.
So weird. Yeah. And we actually went in the house, and my brother, my 6'2", 250-pound solid muscle, ex-Marine cop brother finally looked at me and he said, let's get out of here. And he said the hair was standing up on the back of his neck. And I'm like, see,
oh my gosh,
y'all think I'm crazy. See? So that was really pivotal. And then when I grew up in a family where the boys were taught to get along in the world, and the girls were taught how to be a good wife, like so we could be taken care of, which was my dad's mindset. And so when I grew up, I graduated high school, I married my high school boyfriend, and spent 20 years in an abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And during that time period, towards the end of it, when I was so lost and so desperate, and I had started to work with a network marketing company, and I was rising pretty quickly in the ranks of the network marketing company. And there were a group of us who were leaders who were gathering to do some planning, and I had invited them to come to my house for dinner. And I remember standing there in my kitchen thinking, oh shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I can cuss on your podcast.
Of course you can. Absolutely. Let it rip. It's fine.
Okay, good. I forget. I should ask that question.
No. You don't ask. There's no boundaries. You just go. Let it go. Keep going. I'm in it.
So I'm standing there in my kitchen, and the thought comes into my head, oh shit, who am I going to be when they get here? Because if I showed up the way they expected me to show up, then in front of my ex, or my husband, who was the husband at the time, say husband number one.
Okay.
If I showed up in front of husband number one, the way they saw me and the way they experienced me, there would be hell to pay afterwards. And it could turn physical.
Yep.
And if I showed up the way he expected me to be, they would lose all respect. They wouldn't recognize me at all. And I realized I was living this split life, and it literally, I had to put my hands on the counter to shelter to steady myself. And I thought, this is bad that I'm this split. This is really bad. And that became a pivotal moment of me trying to find a way to reconcile. I was raised Catholic. He had moved me away from my family. So we had moved from California, where I grew up, to where his parents were, in Washington State. We had been there almost our whole marriage. My whole life was revolved around his family. So I wasn't ready to walk away from the marriage. Plus, I had all that psychological stuff that an abused woman goes through.
Oh, I've been there. And let me tell you, I know. And you know what's scary is you believe it begins to go into your brain and into your psyche, and you believe it at every level. So for you, I'm having a visual of you standing in the kitchen and having this I can picture it, Julie. Like you're
Yeah.
just standing there and it's like, there's this one Julie, then there's this other Julie, and holy shit, what Julie am I going to be? And should I cancel the whole thing because what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was no way through that.
Oh.
I don't actually remember the dinner though, which is interesting to me.
Wait, that's kind of good. You don't know what you made.
I don't remember it. But I remember what happened as I started looking, and I went to an employment agency. Here's the other thing. We had 4 kids, and he had his own business that I had helped him start, but he generated the income. And so while I did, all the bookkeeping and all the correspondence and all of that stuff for the business, he generated the money. So if I left, I had to have my own money. And I went to an employment agency who told me I was worth $10 an hour, no more than $10 an hour.
Wow.
And I had 4 kids. And that just took me out. I was like, there's no way, I can't leave. I just can't. But I was, at that point, you said at the beginning, you got a nudge to start this.
Yep.
At that point, Source was nudging me.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way I could stay. And I went through a process, and I started working with a gal who's a Reiki master and a psychic, and she's pretty powerful.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
And it was at the end of our time together, because I had hired her for a certain block of time. And the very last session, we did a meditation, and I was walking with my highest self, and I said, but can I stay in this marriage? And my highest self said to me, of course, you can stay and you will die, and that's okay. Or you can stay, or you can leave and you can build a life. And she was like, and it's your choice, stay and die or leave. And it was totally, when you're talking to Source is like, it's your choice. You get to choose.
Yeah.
So I chose life, and I walked out, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
And when you did, I can only imagine. And with 4 children. So just take us, and I mean, just quickly, but to that day that you knew this is the day you're going to do this. What was that day like for you? I mean, did you have to pack up everything for the kids and you, or did you ask him to leave? How did this play out for you?
Well, at the time, 2 of them were older. And so my oldest had already left the house, and my second child was getting ready. He was going to go stay with his uncle for the summer and work for his uncle. And so like the next day he was on an airplane out of there. And then the 2 younger ones, actually, because I wasn't thinking right, I was used to doing what my ex wanted. They were given the choice to come with me or go with him.
Okay.
And I set up a house, and they went back and forth, and it was a mess, and it was not good for them. But they're all grown-ups now, and they're all doing well. So
yep, they're resilient, dear. They're resilient, right?
But it was, I really had to learn basic things, like I actually could support myself, that I had to learn how to get the oil changed, because he had always taken care of the cars, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember calling a friend and going, okay, I know there are places you can do this, right?
You can go to.
How do I get my oil changed on my car?
There's these places called Jiffy Lube, but I didn't know that they existed, right? And you can drive up.
I know, it was the greatest thing to learn about Jiffy Lube.
Oh.
So that's the beginning of my story. But what I learned in that was that really what I wanted to do, and the passion I had, was I wanted to empower other women. And I am so on a mission that no woman should have to choose to stay in a place that's bad for her and her kids because she doesn't think she can make enough money to support them.
Mm-hmm. And this goes really back to what you shared, that took years to completely, it's like a chiseling away at your self-confidence. And
yeah.
The lower you get and the more control that somebody has over you, the less you feel capable and confident. And so you look in the mirror and think, what could I possibly do that's of value, right? You're doing what you think you're capable of. So for you, I love that you've taken this. I have to say, I just love, because this is so powerful to me, and I'm passionate about empowering women. And I think that what you've done is you're a true walking testimony to saying it's never too late. You can do this. And I'm curious this is a beautiful pivot to obviously the art of the feminine and what you're doing now. Take us through this journey. And you can tell you're so happy. You're in a good place in life. There's joy that's oozing out of your voice, Julie. And that's what you want other women to have, no matter what they're doing, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I think the start for me was I went through a series of personal development courses. And my goal at that time was I wanted to heal myself enough that I could have the relationship I always wanted.
Mm.
Right. So my motivation was partly because I wanted to build a business. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always done little things on the side. But really it was, I wanted to have that great love affair. And I'm actually now married in my second marriage, and it is that great love affair.
I love that.
Although, he's digging a really big hole in the backyard right now. So I'm kind of concerned.
Oh my God, I love that you just threw that in. You're like, is he digging a hole for us to go? Is this where we're going to have to hide out and get through the virus?
Or is he just sick of me now?
As you're telling everybody how wonderful he is, you're like, there's something a little twisted right now. I'm watching him dig a hole to put me in. Oh my God, I love that.
It's actually for a tree. We do have the tree putting it in, but I'm like,
oh, I love that. So tell me, I love that you've taken and harnessed this, and you can tell you're doing it. When you think about that journey and the strength you have now and the courage and being in a different place, what advice would you give to our listeners right now? And I have a lot of men that listen too. So I wanted to go to any human being that's in a place right now where they're going to their closet like I used to cry, wondering if I could ever get out safely, if I could ever be worth something, right? Like, what advice do you give?
If somebody's in that situation, and I'm going to just tap in. So I give from my soul, so I give from source, not from my head. Mm. So the first thing to know, if you're in that situation, is you're not alone, that actually there is a future you who is holding you right now and who is guiding you towards a different future than the life that you are living right now. Mm. And that you have to know that source has your back. You have to know that when you take those first steps out, and it's going to be hard. It is not easy. It is not easy to take the first step and the second step. But as you take those steps, you are never alone. That source is with you, and there is a future self that is with you, who is holding you, who is taking what you can't bear right now so that you can continue. And find someone who can give you a little piece of courage. I was really lucky that I had people around me who were able to say, we're going to hold you safe. We're going to help you. We're going to tell you where to get your oil changed. I had friends on the police department who, as soon as I said, hey, something's wrong, they were like, you're not leaving our office until you read this information about domestic abuse. And after I left, they would come by my house and they would do drive-bys past my house just to make sure that everything was okay. I was really lucky to have that, but I had to say the first word. I had to ask. And there is no shame in asking. There is only strength to be gained by asking. If you don't have someone in your life like that, there are hotlines, there are agencies, there is somebody who will help you, because what you're going through now is building in you a well of strength and skills that you will use later in your life to do the work that you are actually on the planet to do.
100% agree. And you have such a beautiful, soothing voice. I love listening to it. So I know that people will want to reach out to you, Julie, and learn more about the work you do, because, it's just powerful and you're passionate about it, and you can tell it comes from the core of who you are. So can you tell everybody as we wrap this up where and how best to reach out to you, my friend?
Yes, thank you. So you can find me on Facebook. Friend me at Julie Foucht. I also have this great Facebook group, and I'd prefer that you join me there because we do a lot of business building, feminine business building, how to tap in, how to market, how to make money. I'm passionate about women making money, really passionate about it. And that's Feminine Marketing Magic on Facebook. And you can also find me at my website, which is juliefoucht.com. And
Perfect.
Foucht has a T at the end. I know you'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, I love that. That's why I love it, because when I asked you at the beginning to pronounce your name, you go, it's Foucht, just like couch. Yeah. I love that. I was like, well, I appreciate you being here. I thank you for sharing your heart, your story, your soul, and that you had the courage, because today we wouldn't be together sharing your story, and you wouldn't be living a beautiful life if you hadn't listened to Source and taken the courage to take a step and to do it.
Thank you.
So thank you. I can't wait to connect with you again in the near future, my friend.
Yeah, me too.
I know. I want to learn all about that haunted house. Well, have a wonderful day, and thank you for being here, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly, though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.